Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pointless Motorsports Podcast. You've got points, we don't. I'm SK.
I'm Paige. It's a great day to be a race fan, and this is the fastest yap.
Hello! We have a guest again.
Yay!
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is John Macias. I am not really an expert in anything regarding racing or motorsports, but I know SK from when my second job teaching when she was a student and in college, her college, my job teaching. And yeah, I'm excited because I guess the thing that I do have a little more experience with is actually going to Indianapolis, or specifically the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Um, but I've yet to go to, my own. I've only ever actually been to an IndyCar race at Kansas Speedway. When I was an undergraduate, I went to Bennington College, which was, nearby Kansas Speedway. And so I was able to make it to an IndyCar race there. But other than that, I've not been to any other track, at least for an IndyCar race besides that in Indianapolis.
I would say you're equally qualified as us. We don't know what's happening either.
Our tagline is Pointless Motorsports Podcast for a reason.
How did you get into motorsports? Where did that interest come from, or who introduced you to it?
I think it was my dad actually, because I remember my mom talking about how for many years, it was always, for various reasons, but always just kind of around May, he would get excited to kind of follow Indianapolis. And so then I was actually thinking about that. I think when the first time I really kind of got into it was, I guess this would have been 2008 maybe, um, was Buddy Rice, this, American driver, won a rain shortened 500, Indy 500. And I remember being kind of excited because it was an American who had finally won for the first time in a while. And so I kind of started following him. And then actually, it was a race at Kansas. I was watching on TV and he won by, it's one of these photo finish to the line things. It was, hundreds of a second. And he won. And I guess I just got excited from there. And then, I kind of told my dad, is like, well, and it was my senior year of high school. And I kind of said to him, well, maybe we could go to the 500 just as like a nice high school graduation present. And so, yeah, that would have been in 2005. And then just kind of went from there. I started kind of getting a little bit into, I had some friends who are into NASCAR. And so I got a little bit into NASCAR. I remember following Tony Stewart, which, I guess helped because he was also, a big Indianapolis guy as well. And so I was kind of excited about that and watched a little bit of that, but I've stuck much longer with watching IndyCar. I would say I definitely prefer IndyCar to I am interested in kind of Formula One, although I'm starting to realize I may just be more of like a Max Verstappen fanboy than I am like an actual fan of Formula One racing because I can sit and watch an IndyCar race and not really, I mean, I will admit I do prefer races where it's not just Alex below and then everybody else 10 seconds behind him. But, I feel like I could watch one of those races and just for whatever reason enjoy it more than Formula One. But, I also have definitely enjoyed watching Formula One as well. So I'd say that's kind of where I got some of my interest in it. And, I think probably like a lot of people, I started getting more into it because of, Drive to Survive and all that stuff. So
Yeah. I think Formula One in the last couple of years is a little different now than it was also. So I validate your feeling that it's not quite as exciting to watch. IndyCar at least has a lot more overtakes and pit stops, and it's a lot more chaotic, a lot more elbows out, kind of nitty-gritty
Mhm.
stuff. So I can definitely see the preference of that over F1 in this
I mean, I
era,
think also something
essentially.
like I was thinking about this, like what is it that I like about Indianapolis? And it is just the fact that it is, it's kind of cliche to say, but it is just a historic track. There's when you go there, I was trying to figure out, I was trying to remember how many times I've actually now been. I think I've been to at least five. I want to say there's one more that I'm missing, but I, 2005. And then it really wasn't until 2022 that I've started going more like kind of consistently. Um, but it's like, and it's also the fact that, okay, last year was a little bit of an exception, but for the most part, usually you get really good races at Indianapolis. Like there's really good finishes. Usually there's a last lap pass or close to it. You know, as I said, this last year it was kind of disappointing because Hello kind of just took off with it and it really wasn't nearly as exciting. But I was thinking about the previous year, was you know, Joseph Newgarden passing Pato on the outside of turn three. The year before that was, the big one with, well, it was Newgarden's first, which I was thinking about that. I was like, man, that was the year where we had like four red flags in the last, I want to say like 15 laps or something. And it ended with Newgarden. I thought actually, Marcus Ericsson was really kind of done real dirty because, it was this one lap to go and he's just like a sitting duck because, first place is really a sitting duck in Indianapolis because there's just such a pull going down the front stretch and everything. So it was just like, so much about that, I guess, is you get really good races at Indianapolis, and the whole day is just it's this like huge, just single day event of I think it's one of those like biggest single day events in the world. Um, and yeah, it's just really cool.
Um, what to you makes you a Max Verstappen fan and not a Formula One fan, but an IndyCar fan and not enjoying polo dominance? What's the difference
Oh,
there?
honestly, I think I got into Formula One about the time when Um, so I guess there's several things. One, like with Verstappen, I think I got into Formula One when it was like when Hamilton was just like dominating everything. It was he was basically doing what Palou does now, and it was just kind of boring. And so I guess I got really excited when somebody actually beat him, even though, Verstappen's first championship was a little bit sussy, just with the way it all ended. Actually, I was thinking it's very similar to the way that ended. It's actually very similar to the way Newgarden won his first 500. So, um, but I've also, and I've shared this with SK a couple of times. I sort of feel like Max Verstappen is kind of my spirit animal at times, and I just feel like I also feel like he's very much like a newer version of Kimi Räikkönen. If you've ever seen,
Oh yeah.
these great videos of Räikkönen where he's just like saying these ridiculous things, or they ask him like some important question in a he's like, so what are you going to do if you can't do racing anymore? He's like, I don't know. I'll go do something else. Or
Something else.
like you saw it on like the what was it, Drive to Survive when they're asking, he's like, so what's it like to, what's the pressure like? And everybody's giving these answers of like, it's so tough. And he's just like, no, it's fun.
It's more of a hobby.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So I feel like Verstappen has that same kind of like attitude of just like not caring about sort of these things. And I definitely feel like I can appreciate that. So but I guess I just haven't had as much of a particular interest in one driver. I will say I am a big fan of, maybe probably just because he's an American who's in Formula One. I also been kind of became interested in, I guess in IndyCar's Arrow McLaren. Um, but I was excited for Pelot to win last year because, he's this like, I don't know, you probably could consider him one of the greatest IndyCar drivers ever. And yet last year was the first time, not only the first time he ever won at Indy, but the first time he ever won in an oval,
Hmm.
which is kind of crazy to think about. And it reminded me of how you had, I think it was Scott McLaughlin, I think it was a couple of years ago, finally won, I think it was one of the Iowa races. And he made some comment about how he finally felt like an IndyCar driver now
He's
because he won in an
confident.
oval because he won in an oval. Like that's the thing that makes IndyCar unique compared to other open wheel races is they do ovals.
Right, yeah, it's
So
kind of a mixed bag.
yeah, I guess I just and I guess it is. I think maybe like what you were saying is also. I think it is also. There's you get I think just better, more competitive races in an IndyCar race as opposed to Formula One. Like it's really exciting. When you get to places like what is it? I think like Silverstone, you get some pretty good passing and things like that going on at Silverstone. Whereas the average IndyCar race, that's pretty common for most IndyCar races, that kind of close action. So now, that to be said, it is true that Formula One is just way more technologically advanced, and you know, IndyCar versus Formula One car, the Formula One car is going to be faster and just more intense, so it's harder to drive. So I think in that sense, it's maybe
Hmm.
a higher kind of racing. But yeah, I think I find myself having a much easier time just enjoying the average, IndyCar race as opposed to a
And I think
Formula One race.
it gives you that kind of, if we could see the drivers in equal machinery, like that's what IndyCar is for the
Mm,
most part. Like there's a little bit of difference obviously between manufacturers and whatever, but they're pretty much all in the same car more or less. There's not that big of variance between aerodynamics or engine or, how things are working in the car. So yeah, I think you can get a lot closer racing when you don't have, your big fancy teams on one end and then you're struggling for money teams on the other end trying to,
mm.
compete together. There's obviously always going to be that kind of gradient. And I think that goes away a little bit more in IndyCar.
Yeah, I think you're right that in Formula One, there's not the same kind of clear like hierarchy of teams. I mean, there's certainly the good teams and the bad teams in IndyCar, but there's not as big of a difference between like, what was it last year? You had although I think that I'm trying to remember, oh, it was a Prema Racing, which, RIP, doesn't exist anymore. But, they had this guy, this first year they've ever done it, they went out, they go out and take pole at Indy, which is just crazy to think.
Crazy.
Yeah. Right. Um, what has your experience of the 500 been like? The only other thing I know about going to the 500 is what John Green has written and talked about. And I've consumed all of that.
I mean, so not knowing exactly what he's all said, I mean, the thing that it's kind of funny. The thing you actually realize is how much of a just like a big like I mean, and I've only really ever been there for Saturday and Sunday. Um, and it's kind of funny because that you actually get there and there's actually a really cool parade on Saturday. My dad and I when we went, we didn't know this. We flew in, I think it was on Saturday the first time we went, and we had a rental car, which we realized we didn't need the next time. But we drove in and we couldn't actually go to the hotel because the streets were blocked off. So we kind of got there like in the middle of this parade. And then suddenly we start seeing, and it's really cool because I mean, not only do they have like a lot of, celebrities and bands from various schools, but they do the field in reverse order. So, they'll have these like cars with all of the drivers in them going from row 11 all the way to the front, and sort of like and so you see every single driver go by, and so that was one of those things we weren't really expecting, but it was kind of cool to find that out, to see that. But I guess my experience is I was thinking about that, and like I would say the first thing when you walk in, the first thing you realize is just how insanely big Indianapolis is. Like it's unlike other ovals in that there really is no one spot that you can see the entire track.
Interesting.
Um, I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I mean, granted, one, just because of how, I mean, it's also flat, at least compared to, a lot of other like tracks, other oval tracks, it's flat. And so you don't get the same kind of, like, you can't from one end see the other side. But then it is also just like, you just realize how, the seats that I've had, we've been able to see like maybe one turn and then the straightaway, or like the straightaway coming from one side and then a turn going into turn one into the short shoot, and that's it. The seats that I have now are right at the pit exit.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And so it's actually really, and actually this year, so the last couple of years, I've had row B, which is like, there's A, which is the bottom, and then B. So I'm about as low as you can get. I think this time I found out I was able to get them upgraded to where I'm in row like G or something. So I'm hoping that's going to be, I mean, I have no idea what that looks like until I get there, but it's just, I think that's the kind of experience, is just how, even although how just massive the place is, you still are like, it's still such an exciting thing to be a part of. And all of the traditions and things that they do, like the flyovers that they have. Unfortunately, I wasn't there last year to see a helicopter go over me. That would have been cool. But um, the last couple of years, it's been, they have the Air Force, whatever, like the Air Force sort of special flyers are. they've, done really low flyovers, which was always super cool. And there's just the tradition of, before they do the command to start engines, they have somebody that'll sing Back Home Again in Indiana, which is such a really cool part, especially this last couple of years when they've done like a second flyover with the Thunderbirds. That's the name of it, Thunderbirds, because they do one flyover where they go the length of the front stretch during the national anthem. And then they actually come back and do kind of perpendicular uh, directionally. So from like behind over the pagoda, over the front stretch. And it's yeah, so it's just I think it's just and then you just realize how many just what it looks like to see like 400,000 people, 400,000 people. Like I was thinking about that. I'm just thinking about this now. The town that I grew up in, the city I grew up in was about 400,000 people. And there's just a little less than that in Indianapolis, or Speedway, Indiana is the name of the town that it's in. Just it's just kind of insane just to think of how big and exciting it is. And then just feeling cars go by you at 200 some miles an hour is it's one of those things that yeah I definitely it's something that I've been going back every not every year but been going back more and more and it's something I look forward to.
Yeah, it's like it's an event. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just a race. It's not just those, 4 hours. It's the whole weekend, arguably the entire month of May,
Mhm.
preparing for
Yeah.
that, doing road course, doing testing, practice, like that. It's like a festival.
I mean, the crazy thing is they also used to do it. They used to do the way qualifying used to be. It basically was like the entire month where there was
Speed week.
a bunch of practices, and then they would have one day where you would go for the pole, and then it was like I can't remember exactly how they did it, but they would do like one day where it was like the first several rows and then the first front, and then eventually you would get the pole day. And then there was always bumping. And it's kind of amazing that they still have, and that's the thing, I guess that's the other thing is you realize just how exciting and what a big deal Indianapolis is when you have, I think it was a couple of years ago where you had two teammates that were it was Ray Hall and oh gosh, I should know his name. Um, Ray Hall, you know, Ray Hall was, well, he ended up actually, well, it was kind of a crazy thing. It was his teammate who he and his teammate were basically fighting to bump each other out. Um, and and so they were both going back and forth, and eventually they make it. And the funny thing is, Ray Hall's teammate ends up getting hurt in practice and had to be replaced. And so it was just this like crazy set of circumstances. But it's just you see what a big deal it is when people are like, fighting just to get in the race. And
Right,
of course, that these guys, one of the whoever makes it in is going to be 33rd, is probably not going to do that well in the race, but it's just to get into the race is such a huge thing.
right.
But yeah, it's just the event of it, all the things leading up to it, watching the way they do qualifying and what a huge deal it is to take the pole, even though I think the phrase is if you win, you get the pole in Indianapolis, you're famous for a week. And then, you win at Indianapolis and then you're, famous for the rest of your life.
That's good. I like that.
Um, how do you feel about people that come in and just race the 500 and not any of the rest of the IndyCar season? Because this is one of the most confusing things in motorsport to me.
I mean, I guess I'm okay with it. At least, well, so when it comes to Indianapolis, I would say at least what, 10 cars probably between 5 to 10 cars are people who are only doing one-offs because the field is 33 cars for the traditionally 33 cars for the 500, but then I think what is it 25 cars that are like series regulars. And so I mean I think it's just kind of an exciting thing. I have no problem with it. I mean I'm if nothing else it's given me become somewhat of a I mean, as I said, I don't watch a lot of NASCAR, but whenever I do, I'm usually trying to see where Kyle Larson is, because I'm like excited because I'm like, hey, here's a guy who decided to try to do the 1100 miles, and unfortunately, I don't know of anybody that. Well, I was gonna say, I don't know of anybody that's actually completed it. I know Stewart tried a couple times, Robbie Gordon tried a couple times. I don't know that any of them actually completed all 1100 miles. Um, but then yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, I mean, I think it's fine, kind of exciting. I almost kind of like it because it just shows how important the race is that somebody is willing to just put all of their time into just that one race.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and hey, if that ends up, you know, meaning Elio Castroneves becomes the first guy to win five Indy 500s, I'm totally here for it. Um, I was there for his, I was just thinking about this. I think I was there when he won his third. He won his third 500. I think I was there and saw him climb up the fence and everything. And so I'd be totally down for and excited if I got to see him win a fifth.
Yeah, it looks like I just Googled this. Tony Stewart is the only one who actually has completed it in
Oh, he did. Okay.
2001.
Okay.
I don't know what if he like completed it well in a good running order, but he did do it.
Well, I know he didn't win it. He hasn't won either. Although I guess he really, in one of the years, he probably should have won the 500 one of those years. But the closest he came was, you know, when he won the Brickyard at least. I think he won the Brickyard twice.
Yeah, you can't script the drama that comes with these things.
I'm curious to see if, with how absolute garbage the Aston Martin F1 car is this year, if Fernando Alonso will take it as another opportunity to take a stab at the Indy 500.
That'd be kind of cool. You know, I keep hoping maybe Verstappen, if he actually decides to retire at the end of this year, maybe he'll go over to IndyCar.
I
He
don't think
has
he
said
would.
that he never wants to race an oval.
Oh, that's right. I remember hearing that. He's like, oh no, he was like, that's just too scary or something.
Every
I
man
can't
has his
remember if he
limit.
said it was scary or stupid. He might have said both.
I feel like I could
Probably.
definitely see him getting bored
Oh yeah. He
even
wanted a
more than
pillow
he
in
did,
Monaco.
even more than in Monaco. Yeah, like it's so much shorter. It's literally a circle. I don't know. I would love to see it though. I would.
Mhm.
Yeah. Who in F1 do you think would do well at the 500?
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a good question.
I mean, there's been, you know, you're thinking of like, you know, I think what was it? Well, I mean, Juan Montoya. I was just thinking of the people that have done it. You know, Juan Montoya did it while he was, and then yeah, you're saying Fernando Alonso. Um, Trying to think of who it is that's done like who in Formula One has done like the 24 hours. I was thinking of like Daytona or something because people who have done that could probably do really well in IndyCar just because they would have the oval experience as well. I mean, Mick Schumacher seems to be doing all right as a even though I think what is it? It was that what I can't remember what the track was. It was the first oval that they've already done. Or yeah, Phoenix. That was Phoenix. He seemed to do pretty well, at least you know decently. So he seems to be doing all right.
He can
Uh,
hang with the big kids.
I guess I'm not sure if there's anybody that immediately comes to mind. I mean, if nothing else, you know, either of the McLaren guys would certainly be popular. They do well at least as being popular drivers
Right. I
because
could
they would
see
already
him
have the
being
name recognition.
successful in the race. I do think that Max could do it if he wanted to, but I don't think he wants to. But it would not surprise me at all for him to jump in that car and absolutely like Polo style dominate the
Yeah.
500 and just be like, oh yeah, like it's no big deal. Um,
I'm also still dreaming of Logan Sargent going to Indy.
Lovey.
Bring him back.
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else. I could see like Valtteri being really good on an oval. He's just crazy
I
enough
Yeah.
that he would
I
be
feel like
amazing at it.
Valkyrie would just love the vibes of an American motorsport.
I
Absolutely.
mean, from what I can tell from him, so that the other thing I remember thinking, he would definitely fit the ethos of Indianapolis because it's one of those places that I was thinking about this also. Like you have this great experience because it's just like the most random collection of people. Because so the race is at like 1 or 2 o'clock local time. It's like 1 in the afternoon local time, but you're getting there at like 8 or 9 in the morning. And so there's this mix of people who are like drinking coffee and cooking breakfast, like, you know, sausage and eggs. Then there's these people carrying around big things of like Jack Daniels and 24 packs of beer. And then because of the snake pit, there's people who are dressed up to go like to a rave club. So they're wearing like fishnets and like, this weird kind of like, makeup and things. And so you get all of these people who some look like they're going to literally in some kind of like EDM party, others who are there who look like, sort of middle, over like, middle-aged people who are, mom and dad who are there because they're just really into racing and they've got a cup of coffee in the morning. And there's people who just want to go get drunk on the lawn or something. So it's just this like I feel like from the little that I know of Botas, I feel like he would actually fit really well in the
Good
like
bridge of all three.
Midwestern, like you could see him having well, he's had a mullet, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just see like he would just be a totally fit in with like the Midwest, Indiana Midwest
I would love for him to
aesthetic.
go to NASCAR.
Oh, yeah. He'd have a fantastic time.
I could see him being like a truck driver.
Oh man.
He'd do all of it.
Oh
He'd
yeah.
have a great time.
No, he would be vibing the whole time. Um, yeah, it's funny that you say that too because there's like a lot of people. So like my cousin goes to the 500. She's been for like the last couple of years, and like I've never been to the 500. She hasn't watched racing at all, and I'm like, oh my God, tell me how it was. Da da da. Who are you cheering for? And she was like, oh, like I wasn't watching the race, and I was like, "Mean."
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, I get the thing that like I mean that is that I mean yeah, it really is. And that is the thing. You do get that people who are there just because they're like it's just a fun thing that they do. And I guess it does sort of have something for everybody.
Mhm.
I will say I am fortunate that I'm sort of there for both. I do love like the pageantry and the event and the sort of festivities of it. Um, but then I also just yeah, love the fact that it's like great racing. And like before the race, so there's this little part of the wall that they actually take out that's at the front stretch. And you can walk and actually just stand and just hang out on the track before the race. And it's a really cool thing because you can basically just walk out. You're like, I could just, and there's times where, you think of like, you try not to let the intrusive thoughts win, but like I could just take off and just start running around turn one. I mean, I don't know how far I would get.
I don't think I would make it very far.
I wouldn't get very far because, well, one, it's just really long, but like you can just like start going that way. And so it's an exciting thing because you would be able to, you can just get like, I mean, I took some pictures the last time I was there, and I actually literally took a picture of just my hand touching the racetrack because I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and
We
I'm
definitely
totally
didn't
not
do the same
ashamed.
thing at Coda.
I was gonna say, I remember that sprint down the front straight. That was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's so much further than you think it is.
It's so close. It's so close. No, it's not. It's really not. We
Yeah, and
did
like,
full sprint from um where they let us in, which was a little bit past the start finish line, all the way down to almost the exact other end of that straight to where the podium was. Exhausting. Too far. Too far.
worth it, but far.
Worth it. Worth it.
So I guess I've never paid that much attention. So it's not just the like teams that do that. It's like fans and such as well.
We were on the actual racetrack. The teams were like inside of pit
Okay.
lane for the where the podium is. Podium for it's different places at
I was gonna
different
say every
races.
track is different because like at
I was thinking
Gateway,
about Abu Dhabi, like how it's kind of like
right,
out over the
and
racetrack a little
is it
bit.
Monza too that goes out there
Maybe.
where it has like the big platform?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's different tracks have different layouts, but even at like Gateway, it's like down in the infield, but it's like kind of hidden. And
Yeah.
that was in Barber, it was like in the middle of the paddock behind the pit lane, and like you couldn't see it from like the big spectator area, so it was kind of
Mhm.
just out of the way there. It just depends, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
sort of what they do with Indianapolis. They actually, I think it was actually within the last 5 or 10 years that they do the thing now where they actually used to just have the car pull into Victory Lane and he would just sit there, but now they actually do the thing where they drive the car in and they raise it up to this top level, which you actually can. So it
That's
was the last time I went, um, yeah, I think it was the last time I went. I remember So that was the year that we had this 4 hour rain delay. And I was like, well, I'm just going to stay here because I had tried to get, I planned on getting these tickets for a shuttle, a bus shuttle that they use. But then I guess when I got there, I found out I went to go buy it and they said they were sold out. I didn't even know they could sell out. Turns out they can. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll just take an Uber back. So I'm just going to wait around for a while. So I just waited until they did the whole thing. And you're able to walk down from where my seats were. I was able to walk down and basically get to the start finish line and just stand there and you can pretty much just see the podium where they're raising everything. And then it's kind of cool if you wait, they do this, parade lap where they put the winning driver in a car and just drive around the whole lap. And then that's when then after that they stop and they do the kissing of the bricks and then that's kind of it. And you can actually just like basically just stand there and watch it.
That's
It was pretty
awesome.
cool. But yeah, it's definitely very much like the actual place where all of the, where they do the milk and give the wreath and everything is kind of way back behind even, it's actually behind pit lane. So it's a little bit hard to
Like
see from
media restricted, team
yeah.
restricted. It's hard to get back there.
It's one of those things I've always had this idea that like not just for like motorsports, but like any of these big events, you should have to like your seat should like when you come up with signing up for your tickets, you should have to get everybody should have to take some kind of test. And your seats are determined by how well you do on the test. And the test is like
This
things
is so
like
professor of you.
well, because like I'm thinking about this, because like I would go there and I would stand in line for hours and hours, take this bus, and then I would see like some celebrity who gets to like walk on the thing. I'm like, you probably couldn't tell me
You
how
don't
many
go
laps are
here.
in. Yeah. It was like, you don't even go here. And so I'm just like, you shouldn't be able to get all these amazing seats and great place just because you have a lot of money or you were in a movie.
It's such a tough thing because on one hand, again, it's a sport, it's a business. They want publicity. That's how you're going to get publicity. But yes, does it also pain my soul to see all these celebrities be like, I don't even know anything about racing, and they are also millionaires getting gifted paddock passes, race tickets, and like VIP experiences. And it's like, what about us little peons? Like, we've wanted this our whole life.
It's like I actually know some of these drivers. I've actually, well, for you guys, I've actually met some of these drivers.
Right, like I can name
Yeah.
them. Can you? Which is actually, you will get a kick out of this. I've delusionally entered a lot of like winning ticket competitions for like Coda, Vegas. A lot of the F1 teams now will ask you, and I think it's more of like bot control than it is actually like knowledge, but it'll ask you like how many laps are in this race? Who won last year? How many points did our team get last year? So you have
Nice.
to like put in a little bit of effort, or you already know the answer. And like it's basically their version of like CAPTCHA, but it's cool. So
I mean,
there is a little bit of
I'm totally down for that either way. Got to start somewhere.
Okay, the important question. If you were an Indy car driver and you won the 500, which milk would you pick? What's your milk choice?
Oh yeah, that's right. They do. They like ask each driver picks the kind of milk in advance.
Yeah.
I mean, other than like probably whole milk, I have no idea. I'm not lactose intolerant, so I wouldn't have to get one of those like oat milk or soy milk. And I figure if it's the 500, you know, go big or go home. I'm gonna get whole milk.
are are
It
you
was fun.
allowed to have like chocolate milk? Is that in the
I have
rules?
no idea. I'm gonna guess probably there's probably not technically a rule against it, but it's like, dude, why? Everybody, this is whole milk. Like, this is
Why
milk
not?
that you drink.
It'd be
I mean,
good.
I could see somebody doing it, honestly, but I don't know that anyone's ever actually done that. But
For fun and whimsy, that's why.
Okay, I have just Googled it. No winner has drank chocolate milk in Victory Lane, but it has been the final choice
okay.
of it has been requested by some drivers in the past. They just haven't won.
I need to know who immediately. This is very important to me. Um, you know who I think
Someone's picked buttermilk too.
Oh,
that's
ooh.
certainly a
Which is
choice.
which is
No,
insane. Hold
I
on.
would I would
Now
want
I
to get
gotta
like
figure out who it
wacky
was.
with it though, like strawberry milk or something. Like do something funny and people would remember that, I think. I don't know.
I mean, people would definitely would remember chocolate milk. I was like thinking, I don't think anybody's actually done chocolate milk because it's
You
only
would
within
know.
what? It's only relatively, I mean, relatively speaking, it's only recently that they've actually that chocolate milk has been a thing you could buy. Whereas, like originally it was just like I think, and that's the whole thing is like it started with this guy who just one of these drivers that won and just was really wanting to get a glass of milk, and it just kind of went from there. But yeah,
Like
I think
weird sports
Apparently,
traditions.
apparently buttermilk is how it started, actually. It was buttermilk that was requested after he won his third victory.
yeah, I was trying to think for some reason that sounded I was about to say actually buttermilk might have even been the first one that this guy really wanted.
Wild times.
That's crazy. Why would you request
What
buttermilk of all of
what
the
year was
milks?
that?
1936.
That's why. There was no other milk. Um, yeah. I feel like if anyone were to pick like oat milk, almond milk, they're gonna get like roasted for it for the rest of your life.
Oh, 1,000%.
Which like as a lactose intolerant girly, I get it. Um, also it would be
Just
really
take your
funny.
Lactaid.
Exactly. Pretend to drink it and spill most of it. You'll be fine.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know how much any one driver actually does drink. There's like one sip and then most of it gets dumped on them.
Fair enough. Um, so one question that I was going around Barber this past weekend asking everyone was if you were a driver, who would your sponsor be on your car?
Oh man. Ooh, what would my I'm kind of curious to think about like what does SK think my sponsor would be? Um
Cats.
uh
What's the
is it like a
opposite of a sponsor?
I'd almost want to say like, I don't know, Thomas Aquinas, can that be your sponsor? Or like,
This is an unsurprising
Any
answer.
brand, any brand.
I was like, well,
The Roman Catholic Church.
the order of preachers,
Yeah.
um, that can be because actually that could be
I,
kind of
I
cool
got
because on the car you could actually have a dog with like a torch in its mouth, which
yeah,
would be
that'd be
really
cool,
cool.
actually.
Slap the Vatican flag on there. What's not to like?
Black and white. It'd be a black and like if it was a Dominican, it'd be a black and white thing. You could have a dog on there.
But you only put the black on for solemn events.
I mean, if they're in terms of racing, this is a solemnity in terms of racing.
Yeah, the
Oh,
the black only
absolutely.
goes on the Dominican car for the Indy 500.
Yeah, the rest of the year it's all white.
Um, fantastic. Um, I think the next question I have is it finally time for Pato to win the 500?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd say it's been time for him to win for a while now.
Is he gonna do it this year?
Please God.
It's one of those things like you never really know who's going to win. Because even when Pelot was like dominating everywhere else, he still didn't necessarily win.
Everyone was like,
And
he's
like,
not gonna do it.
and then he finally did. And so it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, and then of course there's all these drivers like Dixon you never want to count out anywhere because he just knows how to get things done around there. I mean, I would say Pelot is probably one of the, what is it? Honestly, Kirkwood's probably the way he's been driving so far is probably up there. Um,
That would be fun.
honestly, I would love to see somebody like Ray Hall win, but that team's been terrible at Indianapolis the last several years. So maybe they got to
They're
figure it out.
terrible in general. I was like, excuse me,
They've been good this last
podium
summer.
2 days
No, that's what I
ago.
mean. They've actually done really well, but unfortunately at Indianapolis, they've just not been good the last handful of years, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him do well just because it'd be nice to see like the Ray Hall name up there. Just kind of, it was the same reason why like I really wanted to see Marco Andretti win, just to see like an Andretti name up front again.
That would be cool.
But yeah, I would say Kirkwood's probably up there. Same with I mean McLaughlin's probably going to be going to just because I don't know if I don't know. I get the sense Newgarden's probably not going to be up front this year. with at the 500 just because he hasn't been doing that well so far this year. But I certainly would love to see Pato win it. And I think he would be one of the more popular wins in the last 10 years or so. He'd probably be one of the more popular things. I mean, the only other thing probably that would be more popular would be like Castroneves getting number 5 because he's I guess now racing there. So, or I was just thinking the very first year I went was 2005, which was the Danica Patrick's rookie year, where she was the first, not the first woman to race, but I think she was the first woman to lead the 500. And I remember that was a big deal. So, but I don't know if, yeah, I don't, I mean, I certainly would love to see Pato. He's probably the one that I would love to see win more than anyone else. But, I still remember, and I should have gotten a picture of it. I meant to get a picture of it, but I didn't. Um, it was the year that he got passed by Newgarden, and he's just like slumped over. I could see him from my seat. Like I could see him slumped over the driver, the wheel from where I was sitting. And I was like, I should get a picture of that. And I'm like, well, I didn't. And then I saw the same thing again in some of the videos. And I remember him being there saying, this place owes me nothing. And it was just like, that's one of the reasons why I think he would be an especially popular win if he
It
did
would
win.
be such a good story.
It would literally be similar to like Lando's winning Miami,
Ugh.
which also was incredible. That
Or
I will say
or
though,
like Charles Leclerc winning Monaco.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Like
it's that
all of the
iconic.
trouble that he had in the years before and then
You
to
can't,
finally get the win.
you can't write this. Um, oh shoot, what was I going to say? No, I honestly think that that was possibly my first impression of Pato. I knew he was somewhere in the McLaren family, and I remember seeing all the videos of him just like absolutely devastated after the race. And I was like, who's this guy? Like, why is he not like, I don't get me wrong, I love him, but I was like, well, this is kind of pathetic, no? Like, come on. Obviously, I didn't watch the race, I didn't have any context for it, but I was like, dude, come on. And so now to like go back and know all of that is interesting. And that's just funny that that is like the first memory that I have of Pato is him just crying.
I mean, that's the thing is like, that's one of, again, that's, I think it's Allenser Jr. was famous for like winning the 500 and just getting interviewed afterwards and just saying, you just don't know what Indy means. I mean, that's like everybody that is like the second place finisher. Like I remember, Marco Andretti, who I thought was going to win. Um, but then he ends up getting passed down the front stretch to take the checkered flag by Sam Hornish, and he gets stopped, and he's just like, "Where did that speed come from?" Or again, like I said, the year that Newgarden won his first, and Ericsson's just like, you know, like just completely devastated because it's like I said, the closest that I could imagine it was, Hamilton losing the championship to Verstappen in Verstappen's first championship year, where it was just like the next year it was like he just was a different person. I think and then similarly with Ericsson, I think it took Ericsson a while to get over that, if he even still has gotten over that, because it's just such a big deal to come that close to winning Indy, and then in his case, I would say in some ways having it taken away from him because it was bizarre the way they just kept, red flag after red flag. And then there's like they're gonna they're gonna take the green flag and then that's it. Take the green and check and take the green and white flag at the same time. It was just like everybody's like, can they do this? It's like, well, they're doing it.
I guess. Yeah. It just shows, yeah, like the dedication shows what it means. I mean, it's just you're losing the Super Bowl in overtime, on a technicality or something.
Mhm.
Like it's the same level of devastation.
So that's why I think it's not surprising to me and that's why you just feel that's I guess one of the things you love about it is because you see people you feel so bad for the people that lose, but you also feel so good for the people that win. Like I said, I mean, I felt bad for some of the people like last year that didn't, but I also, and I'm not necessarily a big Alex Palou fan, but I felt good for him just because, again, he was this guy, like that was like the only thing really you would say in some sense missing from his career was winning the 500. And
Yeah.
it's an unfortunate thing that you have certain drivers in different sports. Like, I mean, this would be like Tony Stewart is a great example, where he was a championship driver but never won Daytona. And for the longest time, that was actually true of Dale Earnhardt, where he was like this like Hall of Fame driver, but never could win the 500, and then finally did, like a couple of years before he tragically died. Just a few years before that, he finally won the 500. So it's like you're worried that there are some people that are just going to end up at these like just Hall of Fame careers, but never can actually really. It's I guess you could say it's similar to these quarterbacks, like it was like Dan Marino was famous for this being this Hall of Fame quarterback who never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. And yeah, like the struggle is what makes it satisfying in the end, if you do get there. I really want to go, but I don't think we can.
No, we cannot go until after Pato wins it. Because there is a curse on Paige and I that if we attend a race, our favorite driver gets P2. So we
Oh,
cannot go.
I don't know how this started, but it has always been the case.
well, if you
We went to
go,
Pato P2. We went Dakota, Lando P2. She was just at Barber, Christian Lundgaard P2.
oh, that's
Our
right.
drivers get P2 if we are there.
If we're in person, P2, always.
We can't go to Indy until after Pato gets it.
And it doesn't
Well,
work if well, it works one way because Barber Christian got P2, but the first time I was at Gateway myself, Pato DNF.
Which is worse.
So it was
But that was because you were going to a race without me when I hadn't gone to one yet. I think that's what that
right,
was.
exactly. Also, we were like 500 feet from the Coda Turn 1 sprint papaya
Horrible.
incident.
mm,
Watching both of our drivers crash lap one, turn one. Horrific. Horrific. Worst experience. Would not recommend. Do not pay $600 to see your favorite drivers crash into each other.
The sickening sound
Oh
of
my gosh,
the
I'll never
crunch
forget
of
the
the
crunch.
cars.
The crunch of the McLarens.
Oh, my soul died. It's fine.
It's okay. It was brought back to life by Carlos P3.
We'll take it.
P3.
P3, yeah.
I tell you what I'm honestly hoping. I mean, we'll see if this actually ends up happening, because who knows if it's even going to happen. But, supposedly we're having, I really would love it to find like Pato winning like that Freedom 250. That's going to be hopefully here in DC. We'll see if it actually happens, honestly. Who knows?
It doesn't
Um,
seem very likely, but I mean, they were selling merch for it at
Yeah.
Barber like 3 days ago.
so we'll see. What's really nice for me is I live in Baltimore, so I just hop on the train from Baltimore into Union Station, and then I'm right there. So I'm like, I mean, if it happens, I'm definitely going, especially if it's free. So
True.
um, I'm just like,
It would be very satisfying for Pato to win that race. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, yeah.
it'd be really funny to see.
We-
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, very likely it's going to end up being like, especially if it's like Pelot who ends up winning it. It's most likely probably going to be a non-American that wins it, which would just be hilarious.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, all of the IndyCar races are in the US, so it's not really that different.
True.
But I get what you're getting at.
Well, that's what was so funny. Like I saw a bunch of people reacting to this, like I am so disappointed. You can't possibly go to this one because it's, Donald Trump's trying to this. I'm like, I mean, it's a free IndyCar race in DC. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, fair enough. Not much I can say to that.
Yeah, it's a tough choice, but I mean, that's the thing is if you live in that area and that's the race that you can go to, freaking go to the race.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Protest if you must.
Go to the race with your protest sign.
I was gonna say, bring the Mexican flag with Pato's face on it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you gotta do.
There you go.
Um, this feels like a good segue into something that I thought would be fun to talk with you about. You have a particular background in ethics.
I do.
Um, are you aware of the new F1 regulations?
I know that there are regulations, and I know that they're like, I just saw the whole post thing about, now that they've got what it's like a 3 week break or something, and they're evaluating them and
Yeah,
possibly do
nothing in
something with
all
them.
of April.
Yeah.
Um, so there's been a lot of pushback on these regs from fans, from drivers, from teams of it being a major safety risk.
Hmm.
Um, and we saw some of that happen this past weekend with Ollie's huge crash. 50 G's into the wall, unable to stop the car from overtaking Franco, despite Franco's defense and Ollie probably not really actually wanting to pass him. So, Mr. Ethicist, is there a reasonable amount of risk? Are we pushing too much? Um, they can't listen to the drivers on every single thing, but is there a point where they have to listen to the drivers?
Especially when, these are 20-year-old guys. They're not, you know, your brain is still developing. You can't have a concussion.
I mean, there is thing to be said for, this gets almost into more political stuff, political philosophy, but there is a sense in which there's a certain way of looking at it, saying maybe you're a more libertarian view to say you don't protect people from themselves. If people agree to something, then they're agreeing to it. I'm not so much that. I think, you know, racing is already dangerous enough, and so I think you can do what you can to protect people. I mean, I certainly do think there. I mean, yes, there are things that are just too dangerous. IndyCar had. I was trying to think. I was trying to remember how various, because I mean they've had drivers die. Like I remember Dan Weldon, who I actually saw win the first 500 I went to. Tragically died in a crash, and then there was another. I think it was Justin Wilson. I think that's who it was. Was actually hit by the part of the reason why they have the screens now is because he was hit by it was either a tire or a piece of a wing or something that hit him. And so there's a certain degree of just like danger that's already there regardless. And so I think if you have people who are like the ones actually in the car, the people who are driving it, who are the ones taking the risk saying this is too dangerous, then to me that's like if the people taking the risk are telling you it's too dangerous, then you ought to. I mean, again, I don't know Ayrton Senna that well, but there was that in that the film that they did, the movie, there was that movie that they did on him and whatever the other guy's name was, who were sort of going back and forth. Senna was like, I mean, he was sort of quoted as saying, basically, once the risk got greater than however he calculated, 30%, he wouldn't race. And this is a greater risk than 30% of something he wouldn't race. And so I think, there's I think there is a sense in which you can say it is just too great of a risk, and you do have to protect people from themselves. People can just make bad decisions and can just make decisions that are legitimately just not good for them, even if they fully are consenting to it. I think you can do that. So I think, but especially in this case, if you're telling me that the people who are actually taking the risks are telling you this is too dangerous, but then you can see like the idea of of course they're going to do it because I mean they love to do it. It's their livelihood. They probably don't want to make it look like they're not willing to take a risk when others are. Especially they probably have to protect themselves because I could see if a driver just said I'm not going to race, depending on who they are, they would definitely be replaced by somebody who is willing to take that risk and then going forward. So I think, yeah, I would say, especially if you have the people taking the risk or telling you this needs to be, we need to fix this, then that to me is probably the biggest thing. If the drivers themselves are the ones telling you this is too risky, we need to change this, then that's probably the biggest thing
Yeah,
of what needs to be changed.
they've been the ones for, the last couple of years even of this development of the regulation saying, hey, by the way, this isn't going to work and it's going to be really unsafe. And the regulatory body just being like, what do you know? It's fine. it's going to be good entertainment.
Well, it's the interesting thing. Like, it's one of those tensions, both in, I mean, and you see it definitely in motorsports, but also other sports as well, um, of the sort of what you could call like the craft of racing versus the sort of institutional business side of racing. And it's actually, it's one of the reasons why I absolutely love the film Ford versus Ferrari, is because you really see that in portrayed in that film because you've got, the one character who is the pure racer who's looking for this perfect lap. And then you've got the Ford side who are trying to basically do everything they can to make it more about of a show. And so it is this real tension, which it's always funny. It's one of the dangers of being into like actually following motorsports is you start to be able to tell how, okay, that's not real. And unfortunately I can't watch that movie without, because there's the scene where they famously win Daytona. Um, and all I can think of is like that's not Daytona, that's California. That's California Speedway. I'm like, I hate that I think that every single time, but I can't help but think that's California Speedway. That's not Daytona.
Yeah. It's like
But I
watching the
love the movie.
F1 movie, being
Well,
like,
that's
oh,
what I
that
heard.
team doesn't exist anymore, actually.
Or what is it like? They'll go, yeah, Daytona's not in the middle. The 24 hours of Daytona is not in the middle of the F1 season. Um,
Exactly.
but as I said, aside from that one little thing, I absolutely love the movie, and that's part of the reason is you have this real clear tension between what you could call like the pure craft of racing and the sport of it compared to the again the more glitzy side that's basically trying to profit off of it and make
Right. The
money for it.
business, the spectacle.
And I mean the difficult thing is there's almost an unavoidable tension because I think like you were saying earlier, there is like cars don't run on dreams and wishes and ambitions. It takes money to actually put all this together, a lot of money to put all this together. And so there's a certain degree in which you have to have that sort of thing. But I think there's certain sort of virtues that you can have that allow you to always maintain the proper ordering of the actual goods of the sport of racing, and then as you would say, the spectacle and the entertainment value. The things that are perhaps necessary for the sport, but are sort of secondary to the sport. I don't
Great.
know, SK, is that good enough for you?
No, that's
Very
wonderful.
well said.
I thought you would enjoy that question.
There, I feel like I actually do know a little something about what I'm talking about.
That's why we're
Yeah.
asking.
All right. Something that we do regularly on our podcast, but since it is the fastest yap, is we pick a yapper of the week. So someone in the world of motorsport this week who has been a yapper for one reason or another. Paige and I will go first so that you can have some time to think about it. But I
Anybody
am going to
that's
say,
impressed you or
yeah,
done something iconic or anything memorable, like who's your, it's like driver of the day.
yeah. So I'm gonna go for Nolan, because Arrow McLaren did a video where they were getting the drivers to guess Southern slang, and Nolan yapped so much in that video, and almost all of it was wrong.
You're just making stuff up.
Like one of them was God don't like ugly, and he was like, "Oh, that means that I'm beautiful." I was
Because
like,
God
I
don't
mean,
like
I love
ugly.
your interpretation, but no, that's not what that means,
Oh,
Nolan.
that's great.
And like all of them, almost all of them were continuing to yap a bunch and not even being kind of right.
Oh, excuse me. My yapper of the week is gonna be Carlos giving relationship advice. I don't, was that on Team Torque? I don't even know what the context was of that. Somebody like
I
wrote in a
also don't know.
question to
Yeah,
Williams about relationship advice, and Carlos was like, let the girl be pursued by the man, like let them work for it. If he wanted to, he would. Apparently he's getting a lot of flack for this, but I stand with Carlos. I stand with my canceled wife. No, I think he's very, traditional in that way, but not in a bad way. So
yeah.
he's my yapper of the week.
I guess if I had to think of somebody like a yapper of the week, um, well, I mean, I guess it's almost too easy, but I was going to go and say it's Alex Palou just because today's his birthday. Um,
Yeah, fair.
but then also, I think I remember I happened to come across some videos last week of like I think it was something IndyCar did where it was like good night to everybody except,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think his was something like good night to everybody except people that drive the speed limit in the left lane or something.
Yes, I
Yeah.
saw that same video. That was so funny.
Some of them were like, "Dang, really? I feel attacked."
I I can't remember who was the one that went first, but he was like, whoever decided to make Toy Story 5.
Oh yeah,
Why do
Oh
you
my
have
God.
such beef?
man.
Who else was driving related? And he said, Toy Story 5.
There was at least 4 or 5 of them though that were like, if you drive slow in the fast lane. That's a great one. Page pit lane,
SK Pit Lane.
box to retire the pod. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, be sure to follow us on social media at The Fastest Yap on Instagram, Threads, and X.
Subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts and be sure to rate and review to help us reach more yappers.